There we go. Yay, audio. Yay, audio. I don't know why this thing decided to start picking a different microphone. But now I just have to remember to check that every single week for the rest of my life. Now, this is a kind of thing that's going to make me move to Twitch. I can't share screens. I can't have multiple people. The number of things I can't do is amazing. So yeah, I'm thinking about getting off of YouTube for this. As much as I like being able to. Yeah, sorry about that, Forrest. I don't know why. I don't know why. I couldn't tell you. This is why I'm thinking about switching this thing over to Twitch, because YouTube is very limited in what it allows me to do, aside from stand here like a monkey looking for props. Like this headband that my daughter made me. Unfortunately, the flower has fallen off of the headband. I'm sure I'd look just as creepy in it either way. So I've got that going for me. It's a good time. I also I love the smell of gardenia flowers. I like magnolias too, and silver lindens, I believe they are. But I particularly like the smell of gardenia. So I bought a candle. It said gardenia on it. There it is, gardenia. And what I didn't realize when I bought it is that it's a creepy candle, because when the candle melts, it turns into massage oil when poured. Melts into massage oil. So now I've got this creepy candle in my office. And that's that. It smells nice, though. It smells wonderful. It smells exactly like gardenia. I don't know how they do that. It's fantastic. Fantastic scent of gardenia. I just have to forget that it's creepy. It's a creepy candle. I don't know. I don't really have anything else interesting over here right now. Yeah. So let me ask, are you able to access Zoom conferences from work? Do you use Zoom at work? Not Zoom like the MP3 player, Zoom like the thing that SQL Server does. ZOOM. Because Zoom offers a little bit more flexibility. It's not quite as, yeah. So Zoom is a little bit better for that kind of stuff, but it's not quite as just show up at my YouTube channel and hop right on. It's kind of like I'd have to set up invites, or I don't know. It's weird. Anyway, I would like to collect as few email addresses as possible for things in my life. Anyway, yeah. So maybe I'll do that. In technological news, I ditched my Fitbit. I have thrown my Fitbit away. The thing is useless. It has never given me an accurate reading on anything, ever. Not sleep, not heart rate, nothing. So, gone. No, it's not a cardio thing. It's I don't know. I just don't. I don't think me and the Fitbit ever quite got along. I think we are always at odds, because I would do things like sleep, and it would do things like tell me I'm awake for hours. I don't know. Anyway, we do have a technical question this week. Can you believe we have a technical question? Hello, Alex. Hello, Gather Uncle. Hello, everyone. We have a technical question from my friend Ted, who unfortunately can't be with us today. He's not dead, don't worry. He just had other things to do. And Ted says that he has a server that he thinks is under memory pressure. And when he looks in sys.dmos memory clerks to see how memory is being used, he sees what something you wouldn't expect for an OLTP or server. Now, this server has a 360 gig database on there. Ted didn't mention how much memory the server has, but he did say that when he looks in that DMV, that let's see if I'll make sure I read this right. The SQL optimizer entry has 22.4 gigs. The object store lock manager has 5.6 gigs, and SQL buffer pool only has 1.4 gigs. And he wants to know if he should be concerned about that. And the short answer is yes. Yes, you should, because the entry that you're seeing, the entry that's in there for memory clerk SQL optimizer, is the memory clerk that gets populated when you are giving out memory grants to queries. So when you have a query that does a big sort or a big hash or even small ones, you have to give that thing memory. And when you give that thing memory, it has to come from somewhere. SQL Server and Windows do not go into cahoots or collusion in order to make more memory for you or to compress things in memory or do anything else. What happens is you end up mostly taking memory from the buffer pool. And so one other way that you can validate this is if you look in some of the perfmon counters. If you look at the stolen pages perfmon counter, you'll be able to see how much aggregated memory has been stolen away from the buffer pool. So the quick answer is that yes, this server is definitely under memory pressure, and yes, you should be concerned, but you should also try to correlate it with some events. So first, I think what I would look for is resource semaphore waits, because resource semaphore waits are most likely going to show up when queries are waiting to get memory to run to do those sorty hashy things. Right? We don't want to judge the severity of the memory pressure, so we're going to look at stolen pages. We're going to look for resource semaphore waits, and then after that, you're going to have to figure out a way to figure out when those waits are happening. Right? So you could try logging SP who is active to a table. If you don't have a monitoring tool, you could get a trial monitoring tool. I would suggest SentryOne Performance Advisor. Get a trial of that, set it up, and try to figure out when these memory waits happen. You can be able to see very clearly in the dashboard there when memory is tanking and hopefully be able to track it down to some query activity. So stuff that is definitely going to cause memory issues. If you have 360 gig database is your biggest one, well, if you don't have a lot of memory on that server, say that server is a standard edition box with maybe 64 or 96 or 128 gigs of RAM, you've got way more data than RAM. And when you need to do things like run checkdb or read a big table in some other way, and it has to come from memory into disk, it's going to knock a lot of other stuff out of memory. And then on top of that, you've got the potential for query memory grants to be at odds with even things that you're trying to read into memory. Just gnashing teeth together. So yes, I would be concerned, but I would also want to, measure my my concernedness, make sure that I am because like it makes you wonder if this is just something like you were running some scripts you found out there on the internet. You just went and hit F5. Some stranger said, "Hey kid, run this script," and you ran it, and you saw this happening. But it's one of those things where it's like, well, are users complaining about it? Is this something that happens during maintenance? Like, say you rebuild a bunch of indexes or reorg a bunch of indexes, you read a bunch of stuff on into memory, and then that happens. I don't know. It's lots of things to think about because index rebuilds and all that require memory too when they sort data into index key order every single time you run them. Crappy. Anyway, Gazaranko says, on a similar subject for ETL DW server, would you care about memory pressure, e.g. truncating everything and inserting each day, so not OLTP? I would not. Well, that depends a little bit. So if it's a data warehouse and you are using column store indexes and you are coming under memory pressure, you can end up with poorly compressed row groups because the memory pressure will not allow you to read in big row groups and compress them. Something like that. Joe Obish explained it once to me, and this is as much as I can remember. My Vouvray-addled brain. But yeah, so there are times when I would worry about it. If you're using row store indexes, perhaps a bit less. If you're hitting memory pressure for load queries that are, I don't know, again, sorting, hashing things, it might slow them down a bit, but that's kind of up to you to figure out. If I'm hitting a lot of memory pressure when users are running queries or when reports are getting generated, then I might pay a little bit more attention to it. If ETL load times are cutting into when people need to run reports, then sure, I would worry about memory pressure then, because perhaps memory pressure is the reason that things are slowing down. And if because you don't want loads to still be going on when people are trying to generate reports. If that's not happening and people are just hitting memory pressure when they run reports, well, that's a little bit of a different story. You do need to exercise some caution in the way that you let people do things. So there are a couple of things that I would explore. Maybe you have a bunch of processes that are all asking for too much memory, in which case you could use resource governor, or if you're on a newer version of SQL Server like 2012 SP3 Plus or something, you could use the max grant % hint to limit the amount of memory that a query asks for. You can reduce memory pressure quite a bit by reducing the memory grants that queries are asking for quite a bit. If you have, so what you might want to do is try running SP Blitz Cache on there, see if any of your queries are getting the unused memory grant hint warning. You might see that if you're on a new enough version. You might see that in there if it's in the DMVs. Other things that you could look at, well, it would kind of be on a query by query basis. You would have to, you would have to profile queries in some way to like use extended events or profiler. Well, actually, I don't even know if that's in profiler. Jeez, you might have to just use extended events or trace things in a specific way to see how much memory. Like you could use sys.dm resource semaphores and the memory grants one to see if queries are using the amount of memory that they're being given, stuff like that. So that's what I would look at. That finishes in time, I just feel it could be quicker. Well, I don't know. What makes you feel that way? Is it like a guess, or is it rooted in fact at some point? I don't know. I don't know what you're up to over there. You crazy kids, your ETL processes. Let's see. Justin has a question. I'm going to go for this, Justin. I'm not going to read ahead. I'm just going to read the question as I look at it. I'm averting my eyes so I can't see it. Justin says, could you shed some light on what events increment singleton lookup count? I have an index that has 0 scans and seeks, but millions of singleton lookups. Yes. Usually key lookups. So where I see that most commonly is with the primary key and or clustered index of a table, where you have, say, some narrow non-clustered indexes that help queries find certain bits of data, but they don't cover all the columns needed by the rest of the query. Say you have like a single column index, God forbid, on a table, and your query is like selecting 3 columns from that table where your single column index equals something. And so SQL Server says, I'll use you, little index. I will find this data that I'm very interested in, and then I will go back to my clustered index. And I will get the rest of the data needed for this query. So that's usually when I see it. That's what I would look for. Again, you could, if you're interested in perhaps tracking the source query for some of this stuff down, what I would do is grab SP Bliss Cache from the first responder kit, and I would run that, and I would look for expensive key lookup warnings. If you see expensive key lookup warnings, you may have found your culprit. If you crack open some query plans and you see key lookups in there, well, then you, of course, may have also found your culprit. But yeah, that's usually what I see driving that thing to tick up. It's a lot of fun learning about this stuff, isn't it? A lot of fun. The other fun thing about sys.dmdb index usage stats and is that they will show you, or rather sys.dmdb index usage stats will show you lookups that happened, or show you usage in query plans if there's an operator in the plan that has accessed that table in some way, even if that operator doesn't execute. It's fun. Operational stats is even crazier, but we're not going to talk about that. Justin says, I have searched the last 3 months of query plans and no lookups on that guy. Oh, I don't know. Was it on the inner side of nested loops anywhere? Where do you have these query plans saved to, these 3 months of query plans? That's what I would be very interested in. Where did it come from? Didn't see it, just updates. Yeah, I'm not sure then. You might need to profile your workload in some way that allows you to capture queries that specifically touch that table. Like there's a lot of reasons why plans don't get cached, or why plans might not be collected for various reasons. Recompilations, like saying recompile, recompilation events, using temp tables, server memory pressure. There's all sorts of reasons why you might not see something in there. Redgate SQL Monitor. Well, all right. Uncomfortable silence. I might want to perhaps try monitoring the server in a different way that it captures things a bit differently. Would be my first suggestion. Again, SentryOne Performance Advisor does a very good job of capturing plans like that, and telling you when they ran and what wait stats went on and kind of what they did in there. And you can even query the repository directly to, I believe they might log stuff like that in there. Because I know that when you open plans up in Plan Explorer, they tell you the lookups and all that stuff. And I know that Plan Explorer is built into Performance Advisor. So there's all sorts of stuff that you can find in the repo that might show you a different perspective on your server. Anyway, no problem. Happy to answer. Happy to have something of moderate value to contribute once in a while. Once in a great while. All right, let's see here. Well, okay. All right. No questions over there. We have questions over here. No. All right. It's a 500 gig index, and I was hoping to get rid of it. Is that clustered, non-clustered? What kind of index is that? Non. And you have lookups against a non-cluster. Interesting. Well, then you're not going to find key lookups there that help. I would just look for where that index is just on the inner side of a nested loops join, perhaps. That might lead you to some might lead that horse to water. 500 gigs. Yeah, you could just take that column out of the index. I mean, that's what I would do. There's no need to have multiple copies of that. That's the well, I mean, I could say there's no need. So like if, say you ever, God forbid, hit database corruption, you might be thankful someday that someone is like, oh yeah, we have another copy of that column in this non-clustered index. We can just put it back from there. But I would much rather just have a good backup. Because now your backup's going to be 500 gigs bigger because of that index. Damn it. I mean, I'm sure it's not just that column's fault. I'm sure there are some other bad choices in there. But who am I to judge? Who am I to judge? Nobody. Big old nobody. All right. Do we have any other questions? Does anyone else have something they want to know about? Because I am ready to go to bed. Ready for sleep. I mean, maybe a nap or something. I don't know. Peter says, I always read the docs to mean that an index on a varchar max is only an index on the varchar 900 portion of the field. I'm not sure that that's the case for included columns, though. And that's the thing, is included columns don't have any restrictions on that. Alex says, I've got a couple tables with aggressive indexes, total lock wait times greater than 5 minutes row and page with short average waits by SP Blitz Index. There is a high number of lock escalation attempts with 0 escalations. All are clustered IDX PKs. What is the best course of actions to resolve the issue? Well, that's a fairly easy one. If you don't have any non-clustered indexes on the table, then you've got your answer. Is that everything that goes in and out of that table, all the traffic, whether it's a modification, insert, update, delete, or a read query just to select, has to go through somewhere. And those indexes, or that index is that somewhere. So it might be a good idea to check out what indexes you have on there. If you just have a clustered index primary key, no missing index request doesn't mean anything. That means nothing. Nothing. Missing index requests are low-level garbage. Low-level garbage. So what I would do is pay very careful attention to a couple things. One, modification queries that hit that table, probably that have a where clause. So like an update with a where clause or a delete with a where clause. And make sure that you have indexes that support seeks for your updates and deletes. The other thing that I would do is make sure that if I am modifying that table, I'm not doing so in gigantic chunks like, 100,000, 500,000, million rows plus at a time. because that'll certainly lead to way more lock escalation attempts. So when I see a lot of lock escalation attempts, I can tell that either you're doing very, very big modifications to the query and SQL Server is attempting to lock the table rather than take row or page level locks. And that usually happens either when modification queries need to have a where clause or something where they need to find data and they don't have an efficient way to find that data, or where you're just saying, update most of this table, do something crazy. And you end up trying to update like a bunch of rows. See, lock escalation happens. To simplify this a bunch, SQL Server will attempt to escalate locks when it hits around 5,000 row or page locks, and it'll attempt to escalate row or page locks up to a table level lock. It doesn't go row, page, table. It just goes row, table, or page, table. So I can tell that either you don't have the right indexes, which is why SQL Server can't find exactly what it needs to lock. So for example, it might say, well, I was going to take a bunch of these row locks, but I can't because I can't find rows. And say, I'll just lock a bunch of these pages. And then it ends up just saying, oh, we need way too many pages here. Let's go for the table. So that definitely happens when either you're doing big modifications, and let me go grab my probably the most. I wish I had a tracker on how many times I've sent people this link, but let me paste into chat a link from Mr. Michael J. Swart, my favorite Canadian, about batching modifications. Well worth a read. Well worth modeling code after, I think. Anyway, I mean, again, who am I to judge? But yeah, those are the things that I would look for. I've noticed, perhaps anecdotally, that modification queries are less prone to register missing index requests for reasons that I'm not quite sure of. I'm not sure if it's because a lot of modification queries end up doing eager spool work at some point, or if there's something built in that makes them less prone to getting missing index requests. I just feel like something terrible has to be going on for SQL Server to be like, yeah, we need an index to help this modification. Because I don't think, because missing index requests don't care about locks. Missing index requests aren't there to help you resolve locking problems. They might just sort of, by nature of offering a half decent index suggestion, end up solving a locking problem. But the goal of a missing index request is not to resolve locking. It is to resolve where clauses and key lookups, because every missing index request I see is a haphazard spray of columns from the where clause and the keys, and then join and selected columns in the includes. So, perhaps not ideal for most people or workloads, or figuring out why you're hitting locks or blocks or deadlocks or any of that good stuff. A lot of crazy gutches with those missing index requests. Almost enough to make you wonder. Makes a fellow wonder, gets the noggin jogging at full sprint, what the code looks like in Azure or Azure to generate the A/B testing of indexes. I'd be curious about that. Justin says, funny enough, the name of my troubled index is missing index 208. So it sounds like someone used the database tuning advisor to do that, maybe. Unless 2087048 is a bug ticket number or a really terribly formatted and confusing date in the future. The 0th month of 2087, the 48th day or something. I don't know. I don't know what'll happen. It's crazy out there. Crazy. Oh my God. We have okay, cool. No, we don't have a question. We don't have a question there. Fun stuff. Says, when you're not fixing SQL servers, what else do you get up to? Boy. Let's see. I go to the gym and I participate in barbell training because it appeals to it appeals to me because it's not cardio. That's up there, and I do that 4 or 5 days a week, kind of depending on my schedule. And then aside from that, I'm mostly I don't know. I don't want to say homebody because I'm not like just sitting home a lot. I'm a family body though. I drag my family places, make them eat things. I like going to restaurants. Restaurants are nice. People make food for you and you eat it, and then you leave and you don't have to clean anything or anything like that. It's a wonderful, wonderful idea for an exchange of currency. Food for money. I like it. Prepared food for money too. Not like one of those garbage delivery services where they're like, cook your own food, we'll give you chicken. And you're like, I don't need that. I don't know. That's about it. Occasionally go to a movie. I've hated every movie that I've seen recently though. Hated every movie that I've seen recently. I've hated TV recently too. Game of Thrones last season was then Avengers was like it was almost like Hollywood was like, all right, we have two big franchises ending. Let's pit them against each other to see who can come up with the worst ending. And they both lost. Dismal. The only thing I've liked recently is season 10 of MasterChef. It's the best thing on television right now. Best thing on television. I don't know. Sabrina's a bum out. Umbrella Academy was pretty good. I just want every show to be the X-Files again. So I end up watching the X-Files. Been rewatching Archer. I'm telling you about things you didn't ask about. I'm sorry. It's been an hour now. I'm boring all of you. I'm going to go open my office door so I have air conditioning back. Thanks for hanging out and doing stuff, asking great questions. You've been a wonderful crowd, and I will see you next week at the same time, place, probably. Goodbye.